I'm Jamie Torres. I'm the councilperson-elect for Denver District 3.
Give me a little background for people who aren't familiar with District 3.
What is District 3? District 3 is West Denver, so it contains West Colfax neighborhood, Villa Park, Barnum, Barnum West, Westwood, Marlee, Sun Valley, and Lama Lincoln Park.
So you kind of have the neighbor to Chris there, kind of as you guys are moving over in that direction.
Right, yeah, just keep following kind of Colfax West and you'll find District 3 incredibly easily, yeah.
Colfax is not hard to find,
right,
but it has garnered a lot of attention lately. I know you represent more than just the Colfax area, but
yep.
Colfax really has generated a lot of attention. Tell me a little bit about that and maybe how you look at that going forward with your term.
So the West Colfax portion of Denver you're going to find a lot of activity and a lot of kind of both commercial and residential changes that are happening in Denver. And so what we're looking at, a lot of it has to do with what might be happening actually under Colfax. So the Colfax Viaduct and what's contained there is kind of the burgeoning stadium neighborhood plan and the Sun Valley shifts that are going to be taking place with Denver Housing Authority, with Steam on the Platte, Raices Brewery, a lot of development and really growth, both of commercial spaces, residential spaces in that West Colfax neighborhood.
Do you include the stadium districts in your district?
The stadium district is in Sun Valley, yes, yes.
Massive plans going on in those
yes,
properties.
Absolutely.
It's pretty exciting, but it also is probably a little daunting.
Yes, both I think for leadership throughout the city and envisioning kind of what could take place on these lots that are only used 8 days out of the year, but really making sure that there's some connectivity and cohesiveness with an existing neighborhood, and one that is easy to and has been easy to forget because it's so hidden and because it's largely been occupied by low-income residents. So really making sure that those residents are part of the process and that neighborhood is helping to kind of lead this blend as the plan starts to unfold.
My first bullet point I'd like you to talk about is just Denver as a whole. I know you represent a certain jurisdiction, but you also kind of represent all of Denver. Maybe give me a little bit about what kind of vision you have for Denver going down the road.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Denver, in this district in particular, and the last 18 years of my work have been citywide, working on immigrant and refugee issues, and really making sure that Denver is a city and that our community is really focused on integration. And so what I've been working on during that time is really exposing and trying to address where gaps in communication, in understanding, and education might need to exist in order for that integration to really take place. So my vision for Denver is really capitalizing on what those goals have been and realizing them and putting them into action in my district so that we can demonstrate how really strong communication can take place between government and its residents, especially those that might speak different languages, that might have different income brackets, and that might be new or old in Denver.
And it kind of leads me into my next question, and very similar to District 10, Chris's district, you, economically speaking, you're dealing with a wide spectrum of people and a wide age group too. You know, the millennials, much to the retirees, lower income.
Absolutely.
New residents in that lower downtown area. You know, is it going to be tough, do you think, to balance that? Because they all have different needs.
They all have different needs. They all have different ways of receiving information, of wanting to engage. Issues are going to be different, and it really is up to us to craft ways to get those messages to them. One of the things that has been a really joy to explore as I've been Director of Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for Denver has been how different communities need to receive and want to receive information. And so I'll really be focusing on a prioritization of multilingual communications, of meeting residents where they're at, and really utilizing a lot of the valued and trusted nonprofit agencies, government agencies, community organizations that already exist and are doing really wonderful work in West Denver.
Do you look at yourself as a voice for maybe those who don't have a voice or don't know how to voice?
I think city council members should be that, and I would see myself in that role. But I kind of shirk at being a voice for other people. I want to make sure that their stories are also being told by themselves, by them, and really just trying to elevate their ability to share that story. And so that's where I feel like I'm more of a partner than a representation.
Is that something Denver has been good at, or is it something Denver still needs to work on?
Oh, I've found in a number of spaces that it's something that we're still constantly working at. And the agency that I've worked with for 18 years in the city, Human Rights and Community Partnerships, they came into existence in the 40s because of underrepresented and undervoiced communities. And that still is the case. And we grow and we adapt and we evolve. But that need for making sure that unheard voices are at the table is constant, and it's consistent.
More of an impression. You've clearly been involved as a public servant, either volunteering or through nonprofits or activist organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're on city council. You have a little bit of power. Kind of give me how you view that.
The way that I view that for council is not as different as you might think from the former role that I had in Human Rights and Community Partnerships. Power is often dependent on space and time, and the way that I'm able to utilize what leverage I have is going to be utilized. I'm going to find ways to make sure that voices are brought to the table, that questions are asked. It's a mayor-strong city, and I recognize that as well, but there are still ways that we can help elevate advocacy for our constituents, bringing issues to the table that maybe haven't been heard enough from before, and really making sure that that happens. I absolutely come with that lens, especially as we come into a budget season, and really determining where's money going to go. It's been a strong priority of mine to make sure that the Immigrant Legal Services Fund remains stable, remains funded, and that'll be a priority of mine going forward.
You mentioned the mayor strong city. Chris
Mm-hmm.
said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is Colorado, Denver has had a long tradition of being collaborative in how we proceed with our initiatives, lawmaking, and all that decisions.
Yep.
Is that a tradition that you think has suffered? Is it still intact? And what are your views on collaborating?
It's absolutely strong. Collaboration is strong in Denver, but it also depends on the interest and the will of the folks who are elected, who are leadership, who are appointed to utilize and make sure that that collaboration is consistent throughout a process. I think I've often found in working with activist communities and advocacy groups, it's often been a struggle to make sure that their voices get heard, and so we've often become an agency that's responsible for helping do that and make sure that the door is at least open for their opinion, for their position, for their voice, and that will continue, I think, through for Denver.
We have this bellwether that we use with the politicians and everybody that first 100 days,
Yeah.
right or not. Not sure where that came up. But
It's catchy.
fast forward here.
Mm-hmm.
We're 100 days into your term. What can you look back on and say, wow, we got that done, or this was a positive?
There are a lot of really wonderful ways that I think that we can start chipping into, either things that are in motion or things that we want to be doing. Like I mentioned before, communications is one of the things that I really am prioritizing, and it was one of the things that was mentioned along the campaign trail. People feel disconnected from what's happening in the city, and a lot of that has to do with both age access, digital access, as well as language access, and making sure that we're doing things in a way that overrides some of those barriers. So communications becomes one thing that I want to make sure in my first 100 days we have a plan. We're developing a plan for. The second is there's some really wonderful parks decisions that are going to be happening in my district. Last Monday, land was purchased for Westwood Rec Center, and so that will begin wheels turning on stakeholder meetings, on other neighborhood discussions and engagement, and we'll be involved in that. There are going to be some parks that will be developed and master planned. All of those will begin. And so some of it is getting a grasp on what are the existing projects and how can we make sure that the right people are at the table for that. And then the other is the neighborhood planning initiative. They'll be starting the West neighborhood planning in the next couple months. That's going to be a big deal, and that's going to be taking place over the next couple of years, but it will start in these first 100 days.
I think I've touched on everything that I want to talk about, but just personally, you're less than a weekend away from your first council meeting. Not that
Yeah.
you're new to this thing, but kind of give me your impressions. You know, are you a
I
little
feel very
nervous?
new to this thing. This is still feeling like I'm starting school over again, and new spaces and faces and classes and lessons, and I feel incredibly prepared and yet open and curious about kind of what awaits us coming up. I'm really excited. I'm thrilled, and I can't wait for my family to be a part of this.
You have a lot of experience on here, you know, with Debbie and a lot of people
Yeah.
have been involved in the city for decades, if not just a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, how much do you rely on that?
Oh, incredibly heavily. I think we can't imagine doing innovative things in the city without knowing what are the levers that work, what are the barriers that have existed in the past, how do we learn from them and overcome them. And you do that by talking to people who have tried things before, who know other people that you don't know, and who really kind of broaden your perspective a little bit. And I think that this council helps do that. There are 5 new people coming on board, but it's a different landscape as well. We're overwhelmingly women for the first time on the city council, and that's also exciting. So I think there's a lot to look forward to.